How you doing? It's great to see so many good people here. It's great to see there's so many people that care. In the European Parliament, they talk morning, noon and night about freedom of journalism, freedom of expression, human rights, humanity law. But you know what? The place is creeping with hypocrisy. They don't give a damn about journalists when it doesn't suit them. The treatment of Julian Assange exposes the Western countries like nothing before. Over nearly 200 journalists have died in Gaza. They don't give a damn about them either. They only care about journalists provided they have them in their pocket and they do what they're fucking told. The persecution and the attempted extradition of Julian Assange is all about stopping the truth. Because they don't want the truth to be out there. Because they behave badly. They're still behaving like colonialists. Their mindset is still colonialist. And that too has been exposed in Ukraine and in Gaza. Western imperialism is still on the march. And Julian Assange had the audacity to expose the fact that they commit war crimes morning, noon and night to achieve their ambitions. Well, you know what? The people of the world are waking up. The people of the world have had enough of them. Politicians have never changed the world, but the people have. And more than ever, I have never seen so many people on the streets as we have in the last couple of years, because the establishment has been exposed to what it is. And God help us in Britain now. He's had to pick between Sunak and Starmer. God fucking help us. But things can change. We can make the world a better place. We can organize a society where people are treated fairly. We don't have that at the moment. But it's so important that we challenge the system. We cannot be putting up with it. We have to make it plain that the people have had enough of this nonsense. And the freedom of Julian Assange is central to this. If no one knows what verdict is going to come out of this trial. We've seen so many at this stage. But at the same time, the ICJ in The Hague gave us a verdict that we didn't expect. Let's hope we get another one out of Intel's. Thanks.
We got our post-duopolist brother who's doing amazing citizen journalism at Due Dissidence. Welcome back to Nick and Nye and RBN, my brother Keaton Weiss.
Always a pleasure. Good to see you again, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys was in London, and this is why I wanted to leave with this because
Russell was there. I was here.
Yeah, Russell. Yeah. I part of the Due Dissidence team was in London. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
Yeah, so I was preparing to do a hotspot, eventually do a hotspot on the ICJ video, on ICJ occupation hearing. But I was planning on doing about Assange because we were expecting a big ruling, but they are deciding to stall and torture him to death. That essentially was the ruling because they didn't actually decide on the expedition. But I'll pass you, King. I know you guys did great on the ground journalism. You guys killing it. Like people like Keaton and Sabby. Like when I see the good guys win, you know what I mean? That only motivates me. Like, I'm like, fuck. Like it motivates me to stack my game up. So when I see you, Sabby, fucking killing you, Danny, Highfall, y'all guys killing the game, it's great to see. It's very motivating for me to make. It made me feel like I gotta step my game up. So you guys do great work. So I will pass to you, Keaton, for what you guys cover and your breakdown of what happened in London and Assange. And I'll play this video with Corbin after you get done. So I'll pass to you, Keaton. Welcome to RBN once again.
Well, thank you. And you guys are doing great also, obviously. Yeah, we decided to send Russell to London. Last year around the summertime, we raised some money. We did a GoFundMe and raised some money to cover the primaries this year. And the plan was to do Iowa and New Hampshire. And then Russ got hired to co-host or to fill-in host, I should say, for the Jimmy Dore show right when the Iowa caucuses were happening. So we had to nix that. So he said, all right, we're not going to do Iowa and New Hampshire. We'll do New Hampshire and South Carolina. So I went to New Hampshire And then, Trump obviously blew it out in New Hampshire to the point where we really didn't see any purpose in going to South Carolina, but we had extra money left over from the fundraiser. And unfortunately, you can't get a van for $5,000. There's just no vans to be had and built for $5,000. So even if we wanted to spend that money on a van and drive around in a van, we couldn't. So we figured instead, we will give a poll to our audience to see where they would like us to go with the rest of this money that we raised.
Gotta love the democracy. Gotta love the democracy.
There you go. Yes, indeed. And so we gave them 3 options, and all 3 of these were great options. And we might do another fundraiser to do the other 2, because the 3 options were Day X. We were also considering going to Dearborn, Michigan, to interview a lot of the Arabs and Muslim leaders there who are going to boycott Biden. That would be a fascinating trip. I would love to get to do that. And then option 3 would have been the DNC.
Because I know we were thinking about having Rome, because that's
right. Yeah, it's right near him. Yeah,
absolutely. Go ahead.
That would be amazing. I mean, that would be fantastic. Maybe we could do something with him if we end up going out there, because we might. So basically, those were the 3 options. We put it to a poll, and the overwhelming winner was this. And so we sent Russell out there, and he got off the plane at 6:30 Tuesday morning, went straight from the plane to the Airbnb, dropped his stuff off, and then went straight to the courthouse. So Russ put in about 39 hours of work with 1 hour's worth of sleep for the first couple days on the job. And so he killed it. So he was out there all day, both days, including the post-rally march on day 2. And, one of the things that we talked a little bit about was this sort of disparity between what we see online in terms of activism and what we see out in the streets. Thankfully, it seemed like the organizers were pretty pleased with the turnout here. But I think it's much smaller than it should have been. And that's not a knock on them, obviously. It's brutally difficult to organize people around a cause like this, especially when there is just a full media blackout on this. Like, he saw no American news media there. CNN wasn't there, Fox wasn't there, NBC wasn't there, and you had the New York Times, you had the Washington Post, you had all these big papers of record over the past, couple months and years put out these, virtue signaling op-eds where, yes, he should be freed because this is a terrible, dangerous precedent to set for First Amendment, blah, blah, blah. Well, if they think it's so important, where the hell were they? I mean, these were the days. They've been hyping these days for years. They knew this would come. Well, not years, but obviously since the last extradition, since the last pause was overturned. So it's been almost a year now where we've known that this day was coming. And where was the media? Where was the press? So despite all those things, it seems like the organizers were happy with how it went. WikiLeaks was really great to us. WikiLeaks actually gave us access to their video as well. So we not only had Russell's video to work with, but they gave us access to their Dropbox folders. So they were uploading footage in pretty much real time, and we were able to use some of that, thankfully, to put out both on our YouTube and our X and everything. So it was, it's very fulfilling to get to do this kind of work. It is difficult, and it can be depressing at times because there should have been 100,000 people there. This should have been like a free Gaza march, and obviously we love that people are hitting the streets to protest what's going on right now in Gaza. And that's hugely important, obviously not taking anything away from that. This is hugely important too. Not only are there just horrific First Amendment sort of implications for this, but just as a human story, what they're doing to this man, torturing him to death, what they're doing to this wonderful family of his. He's got a wife, he's got 2 young kids. It's just sadistic and sick and evil. And in keeping with what you were saying before you brought me on, this, along with Ukraine, along with Gaza, along with Navalny, the West is just crumbling under the weight of its own sick and evil bullshit. And it's all just kind of happening at once. And on the one hand, it's easy to feel sort of hopeless in the face of that. In the other hand, you are seeing people mobilize, which is something.
Yeah, and this is why I don't understand why these like boomer fucks like Dr. Cornel West like attack citizen journalists. Like he demeans citizens. That's what he tried to do to us. Oh, those YouTubers. Oh, they're just YouTubers. No, we're citizen journalists covering stuff that corporate media is not covering. And the same experience you had is the same experience I had when I covered the Palestine rallies on the ground and I posted many speeches. That's my citizen journalism.
Right.
Because I was there and I met this guy who was from NPR. And it's funny, this NPR, the guy recognized me, like, you're the socialist MMA guy. Like, whoa, that's just weird. He was actually a nice guy, this black dude. He was at NPR taking pictures or whatever. He was the only guy there. And I posted these videos. I posted this video, this 92-year-old Palestinian who explained the history of Gaza and the history of the Nakba, because he lived his whole life with that. And that video clip went viral on Twitter. You had thousands and thousands of people who've seen this clip who otherwise they would not have seen because no one covered this event. That's my contribution to citizen journalism. But people like Dr. Cornel West and the establishment heads, they like these PMCs, they look down on you for being on YouTube, even though we're doing, especially Due Distance and all these other media channels like Sabby and other people, they're doing incredible work, but there's like this culture to demean it, which makes zero sense to me. Because you have all these people who have way bigger budgets. Every single independent media outlet should be covering this. You should have even people that we don't like. TYT, Majority Report. Everyone should send a representative, but they did not. Due Distance did, though. That's real journalism. And I need people to decolonize their mind because that's how they get away with killing Assange. The fact that I see PMC lectures like Dr. Cornel West gatekeep what it means to be a journalist is dangerous. Because what do you guys hear from the New York Times and the establishment swamp monsters when it comes to Assange? He's not a real journalist. That's what they say.
Well, yeah, they call him everything but a journalist when they write about him. The Guardian write up from 2019 on the Yahoo News piece, which disclosed that basically Pompeo and the CIA were plotting to basically whack him. They called him an activist. Some people call him a whistleblower, right? He's not an activist. He's not a whistleblower. He is a publisher and a journalist. And the reason why they can't call him a publisher and a journalist is because what he did was protected under the First Amendment, which guarantees a free press. And so if you call him an activist, you could say that what he did was some, guerrilla tactic against the state or whatever. When you call him if you call him a journalist, then you're forced to tell the truth that he simply obtained and then published information, which is 100% legal. And if that is no longer legal, then we no longer have a free press, and there is no such thing as journalism as we know it anymore. And the fact that their very profession is under attack in this case, and they don't seem to give a shit, tells you they're not really journalists. That's what it reveals, right? I mean, if you owned a pizzeria and they were torturing a pizza maker to death in a prison for the crime of making pizza, the pizzeria owners would show up. They'd be there. They'd be pretty pissed off because they'd be pretty afraid for the future of their business. The fact that you have these hacks totally silent on this tells you they're not actually journalists. They are mouthpieces for corporations and whichever political parties or actors they happen to like. Staying very, very close to them, I guess, offers them a certain protection, they think, and maybe that's why they don't show up, but it certainly reveals that they're not for real. Anyone who's for real is covering this. Now, I'm not going to be like Jordan Sheridan and say, well, everybody who wasn't there is fake, right? Oh, we went there. Yeah, that's what I would do if I were him. I'd come back here and I would look at the view counts, and then I would get really angry and bitter and have a chip on my shoulder for 5 years because it didn't get as many views as some of my drama clips got, right? So I'm not saying you had to be there, but you have to give a shit. You have to put out some content. You have to give it some airtime because this is monumentally important. And people don't know how important it is until he dies, until they actually kill him. which is going to happen at some point, unless a miracle happens. And once that happens, then, you know, people are going to see that we're going to be living in a very different world, and it's not far off.
So not only is Julian Assange a journalist, he's one of the best journalists of our time. You guys realize that? WikiLeaks never had to make a retraction.
Right.
Ever.
Yep.
They
Perfect record.
exposed United States war crimes. They exposed corruption in the DNC. And ask Misty Winston, who know the record way better than us, their record is astounding. That's why they have to have him killed. Here's Noam Chomsky on...
Julian Assange shouldn't be the subject of grand jury hearings. He should be given a medal. He's contributing to democracy.
He should be given a medal. He is an award-winning journalist. One of the best we ever seen at exposing government secrets. When they talk about the fourth estate, that is literally what WikiLeaks is. And one of the things that turned me against the Democratic Party faster than anything else, I explained this, is Gaza. And then I seen their treatment of Julian Assange. When I see their attack on liberties and the freedom of speech. But despite this, forget Assange for a second, fam. Forget Assange. Fuck his credentials. The First Amendment guarantees everyone the right of freedom of the press, freedom of speech. That means everyone is a journalist. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to be award-winning WikiLeaks.
Well, Assange didn't graduate college. I don't think Assange ever graduated college.
Yeah, that's the point. In throughout the entirety of the Julian Assange thing, you have even progressives like the Bernie Sanders. They were like, "Oh well, you're not a journalist." Who does that serve, my friends? Who does that rhetoric serve? The idea that we can be journalists? Who does it serve? Dr. Cornel West's opinion and the meaning of independent media to the point where we're not doing good work. We're wasting our time. We're just YouTubers looking for clicks instead of doing citizen journalism. This benefits the establishment. They said we had the freedom of the press. If you have the ability to share a story, you're a journalist. There's different levels to being a journalist. I can play basketball. I was playing basketball with my cousins, and I felt like I was about to die afterwards. I'm not the young man I used to be back when I used to play basketball in high school. There's me playing basketball, and then there's LeBron James. But just because I'm not LeBron James don't mean I'm not playing basketball. I also explain this as well. I'm a martial artist. I trained Muay Thai for 14 years, my friends. Very proficient. I'm not a professional fighter, though. You know what I mean? I'm not fucking Aaliyah Taporia, who just won the featherweight championship. I'm never gonna tell you I'm Floyd fucking Mayweather. I'm not Conor McGregor, but I am a martial artist who is well trained, though. But just because I'm not Conor McGregor doesn't mean I'm not a martial artist. That would mean that's regarding Julian Assange and journalism. Just because you're not as prolific as Matt Taibbi or Julian Assange don't mean you're not a journalist. If you're a YouTube channel with 500 subscribers, get 20 views a video, you ain't journalist. You got 20 motherfuckers who are watching your reporting every damn day. How does it serve us to gatekeep journalism? You hear it all the time in the media.
Of course. Well, that's what, you know, people demean Substack, right? Oh, you know, Substack's not real journalism. I mean, it's just nonsense. Substack is a platform. It's a social media platform of sorts now that they have the Substack notes. YouTube is a social media platform of sorts now. Like these platforms are what make it possible for people with skills and with craft to actually gain relevance and gain an audience on the strength of their work. Isn't that how it should be? Right? Yep. I mean, should you have to brown nose, you know, upper management at the New York Times in order to call yourself a journalist and work under a team of editors who are going to filter everything you say and write, you know, through the point of view or the sort of lens of this sort of corporate structure? Or do you want to just be able to put whatever you want up as many places as you can put it and have that get as much reach as the people out there think it should? I mean, that's the most democratic way to go about it. And so Substack, YouTube, I mean, YouTube has a whole bunch of censorship issues, as we all are, you know, we all know all too well. But these social media platforms are what make it possible for anybody to do this. And if you're actually, if you actually believe in democracy, in populism, if you actually believe in the will of the people, that should excite you. It shouldn't make you nervous.
Yeah, look at it. And this is, I just found just two quick examples. You can see headlines like this all day. Literally every time they cover Assange, they essentially talk about, oh, he's not a journalist. I'm like, you guys don't understand this is fascist ideology. The idea that you got to go to college for 4 years, you got to go to state institution brainwashing in order to be a quote unquote certified journalism. Now you're allowed to share data. You went through our fucking brainwashing institutions. Now you're allowed to do this. You guys realize how crazy it is to say that? Julian Assange put lives at risk, citation needed, and should not be treated as a journalist. You guys see, this is what they always say.
Exactly.
And by the way,
citation needed. What lives? No one's ever named anyone whose lives were put at risk. No one's named anyone whose lives were lost by information he put out. No one has been able to identify and cite whose lives were put in danger as a result of everything he's put out. And he actually, they have this reputation for just dumping everything, right? Well, we don't go through it. You just dumped everything, and that's irresponsible. Actually, Julian Assange has said repeatedly that he did withhold certain leaks specifically for the purpose of avoiding putting anyone at risk.
They overwhelm me with lies.
Yeah.
And isn't it funny they said he put lives at risk? Do you guys know that Julian Assange exposed the fact that United States military and their helicopters purposely targeted, shot, and killed innocent civilians, including Reuters journalists?
Journalists, yes. Yes.
So who put lives at risk? Julian Assange for exposing you, your crimes, or the soldiers who are literally firing at civilians out of helicopters? Ken, which one's putting lives at risk?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. It really is.
And that's why you guys know they never talk about what he's being charged with. They never say what he is supposed to. Oh, he is supposed to stay secret. What secrets, ma'am and sir? You got Democrats. You got still with her Cenk Uygur motherfuckers who think that Julian Assange is being prosecuted because he hurt Queen Hillary. Like, they still think it had nothing to do with the DNC. There's still a lot of liberals who don't even know that. It has nothing to do with the DNC. But they want him to go in prison because they cost our queen her position as the most powerful person on the planet. And I was laughing earlier because I found this headline. Look at this. This is from PBS. Assange went beyond journalism.
Typo in the headline.
As PBS,
something you want to avoid when you're going to write a piece about journalism. About why you are uniquely qualified to call yourself a journalist. You may want to try and get the headline right. I know typos happen, but it's not a great time for one.
So as they try to paint the picture that Assange is not a journalist, they misspelled journalism. You can't make this shit up. This came out yesterday and they still haven't fixed it, my friends.
Yeah.
Assange went beyond journalism. And should face espionage charges. You understand? These people are fascists, calling for espionage charges against an Australian citizen for exposing the United States war crime. How does that even make sense? Journalism right here, friends.
Well, my favorite is that he's a traitor. You have Americans calling him a traitor. He's not even an American. How can he be a traitor?
Oh, man. So I need everyone to screenshot.
It's like calling Osama bin Laden a traitor. He's a traitor.
No.
Treason.
I need people to screenshot this shit. So I believe these people are journalists. They're not good journalists.
Mm-hmm.
They're not good at it. You know what I mean?